some of the members of the Humiliation and Dignity Network to Aotearoa New Zealand for this meeting. As you can tell, it's a very unusual kind of meeting in the sense that there are no formally prepared papers, there are no, the agenda is loose, what happens will happen, you know, what you give your enthusiasm to will be what will be discussed. It is a kind of a happening event. So on behalf of the Centre, I welcome all of you who have made it to New Zealand to this centre and to the university. For those of you who are beaming in on this experience from Oslo, Lassie and others, welcome. And there are people beaming in from New Jersey, and if they can get through the hurricane that's happening there at the moment and other parts of the world. So on behalf of all those who are gathered and all those who are watching, welcome, welcome, welcome. I just want to say, you know, that I gave Evelyn the idea for the framing of this conference, which was Enlarging Boundaries of Compassion, which was my inaugural professorial address. And the reason I chose it as my inaugural address was that it seemed to me the world was afflicted far too much by selfishness, by self-interest, by boundaries that created barriers between people and so forth. And I've been guided in all of my work by three, unfortunately, dead white European males, and I'm sorry they're dead white European males. But Martin Buber, who was a German theologian, long ago wrote a very lovely book called I and Thou, and in that book urged us to think very carefully about how we can move. We're getting some feedback or something.
Turn your sound up, right?
So Martin Buber was very concerned about the way in which we were objectifying relationships between peoples. We were viewing others as its, as objects, and not conferring real dignity and real respect on them. And so his whole philosophy really was to move from what he called I-it relationships to I-thou relationships, where we could begin a much deeper respect of each other. And in this process, come to understand the gifts that others bring to us in that intersubjective realm. And the second dead white male that you know I like to refer to as Albert Schweitzer, who was known, among other things, for self-sacrificing medical work in the Congo, and he was a distinguished organist and theologian and philosopher. But the book I find most important for us is Reverence for Life. And Schweitzer in this book says, you know, that he's faced with a dilemma. How am I to live, and how do I express my will in the company of others who wish to live and express their wills? And so he's saying that in this competition for space and this competition for air and for a capacity to grow, we have to work out a way in which we can connect with each other that will generate high levels of cooperation and low levels of aggression and conflict. And his solution to that was to sort of argue for a very radical respect for life, a reverence for life. And in the Quaker tradition that I come out of, this reverence for life is sometimes encapsulated in the phrase, how do we treat each other as holy places? And in doing that, discover, you know, the God that exists in the other, and which in itself generates an ethical imperative, not only not to kill the other, but to have a care and concern for the other. And so reverence for life not only means the life that I have and the life that you have and the life that others have, it means a reverence for all natural life. And Hulata, thank you for reminding us about the natural environment within which we all live. I heard on the BBC this morning a wonderful story about there's this, the way in which fungi and plants interconnect. And they interconnect in ways whereby the generous plants get the kind of nutrients they need from the fungi. So even in nature, the generosity is rewarded. And so Schweitzer was saying, if we can get our relationships right with each other and right with nature and right with the universe, then we'd be in a position to begin really addressing some of the deeper problems challenging all of us. And the final dead white male I want to talk about is Emmanuel Levinas, who was a Jew who lived and worked in Europe and in France, but he was Romanian, and most of his family were lost in the Holocaust. And instead of coming through that Holocaust experience embittered and desirous of revenge, Levinas came through that experience seeking answers to why we hurt each other, why we are bitter and angry and hostile and vengeful towards each other. And he had a very lovely kind of rationale for nonviolence. He said that every one of us face this triple vulnerability, which is the kind of vulnerability that Schweitzer was talking about. We face a physical vulnerability, which is that we will all die. And that should be an equalizer. Confronting that reality should humanize us, because that's the leveler. That is the great equalizer. And if we don't acknowledge that equalizer, we are prone to all kinds of delusions and illusions about our role in the world and about our rights in the world and about our and the centrality of buying space for ourselves. There are some, and so Levinas says that encounter with our own physical vulnerability should generate a softening towards the other, because we're all going to die. Although psychologists tell us that there are terror management studies, and that some people, when confronted by that reality, instead of kind of softening, simply reinforce their more pathological tendencies, their acquisitiveness, their selfishness, and their unwillingness to see the other. So that's the first vulnerability, and the second vulnerability is a psychological vulnerability, which is that we can, because we live in the company of others, others can harm us. And we have to work out how we deal with that vulnerability. I mean, that's a reality that we have to confront. And the third vulnerability is a moral vulnerability, in that we can harm others by what we do ourselves. So Levinas says, faced with these three vulnerabilities, how do we begin to work out a way in which we can address them and resolve them creatively and constructively and non-violently? And his solution, I think, is kind of quite brilliant. He says the only way we can really do that is by accepting unconditional responsibility to and for the other. That is, I have to give your welfare more space than my welfare. And only by doing that will I generate the conditions for trust, the conditions for connection, the conditions for deep acknowledgement. And he does this through his whole idea of what he calls engaging with the face of the other, both the visible face and the invisible face. And when you render others faceless, you render them, you make them capable of you doing harm to them. Which is why when people are executed in civilized countries, or even there's no execution which is civilized, but the face is covered, is hooded. Uncivilized countries like the United States execute in the full glare of public, so that you see it adds a different dimension to the execution. But by rendering people faceless, you objectify them, you make them especially vulnerable. By encountering people in their full singularity and the full complexity of their presenting face and the invisible face of their entire experience, you are basically engendering an encounter with the eternal, that which binds us all through time and space. And so that encounter with the other, so you can discover the other's true uniqueness and singularity, is another way in which we both give respect, but a deep acknowledgement, and create an ethical imperative, not only not to harm, but to do good. So in all of this, it seems to me, the issues that are confronting us is how do we begin that radical subjectification of the other at the interpersonal level, at the group level, at the national and global levels? How do we kind of create space for each of us to kind of live and breathe and have our being? And how do we endow all of that with a religiousness, a seriousness, a purpose, even if we're not religious, or even spiritually inclined? You can do it humanistically, but how do we do that? So that seems to me is at the heart of what I imagine humiliation and dignity studies is all about. And so I would hope that in the course of this Kororo, this conversation that you're going to have here over the next 2 days, that we discover something about how to do that radical, deeper subjectification of the other, so that we can discover ourselves and the other and themselves and us, and together develop a kind of a mutual solidarity as we confront those vulnerabilities of death, of deep physical and psychological vulnerability, and negotiate a moral path through it. And so that's why we are pleased to be able to host this meeting. It's a small meeting, a quality meeting, but I welcome you all here. And once again, Huanta, I thank you for coming and sharing the welcome from the owners of this land and this part of the country, and for reminding us that before Pākehā came to Dunedin, there was already a settlement at Otaka that was in touch with nature and living in a symbiotic relationship with the environment, and understanding the way in which messages flow from here to there, visibly and invisibly, through time and space. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I don't remember when I've ever felt so at home, even though I'm so far away from my own home. To start out with this wonderful welcome, thank you so much, and Kevin's description of the work that really can inspire all of our work throughout this conference. We are delighted to be here. So I want to say welcome everyone here in the room. Evelyn and I, if you open my slides, it's great. And Evelyn, I count on you on moving our slides. As you can see, we are in the wild west of technology. The Human Dignity Group is always just 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 steps ahead of what's possible, and yet we try to do the impossible. So today we're actually broadcasting not only in this room, but also around the world. And so I'm so delighted to be here. If you go to the next slide, Evelyn. We actually think whenever we're together, it's an absolute miracle. It's a miracle that this is our 17th meeting as the Human Dignity Humiliation Studies Network. It's a miracle that we could be together despite the turmoil that's going on in the world. And it is a miracle that we can not only meet in person, that we can meet across the globe through this special video conference. So we're happy to be here. I am eager to have all of you introduce yourselves, and I'm going to be introducing Evelyn. But we're first going to sort of set up the meeting a little bit and tell you about our work. But before we even do that, if you go to the next slide, I'd like to explain that we are a community that emphasizes collaborative cooperation, shared responsibility, fluid expertise. That means that expertise flows from one person to another, and connected creativity. That's what we like to emphasize in our meetings. In fact, we enjoy the fact that much of our work gets done even on the coffee breaks. That's where that creativity comes in. And so we invite all of you to be co-creators of this meeting and help us decide how we want to use our time in the most effective way. And in fact, having a cozier meeting gives us an opportunity to really go deep with ideas. But sometimes this work is really a challenge, so I'll show you my next slide that kind of captures the challenge of working with human dignity and humiliation studies. There's a lot of information, a lot to be done, so it's a little bit like learning to drink from a water hose. It comes at you very fast and lots of information, so please do everything you can to take care of yourself throughout the meeting and take your time. Just think of this as a start of a long-term conversation. So, we always like to start out with a few appreciations. First of all, Brian Ward, who has been our beloved long-term email news person and connection to New Zealand. He's been with the Human Dignity Network since 2006. I'm sure he's had to deal with at least 1 million emails in that amount of time, and has always been our friendly voice in the area. So please thank him with a little round of applause for his contribution to this work. We want to thank the university, and we're celebrating this wonderful Peace Center that we could be here to really honor that this is being established, and in particularly we have to thank you, Kevin, for your leadership in making this whole program, next slide, thank you, Evelyn, for making this whole program possible. And in fact, I brought you a gift from my home state of Oregon, which is a video about conscientious objector William Stafford. Whoops. Sorry. William Stafford is a poet laureate who was a writer about the challenge of being a conscientious objector, and tells his life story, and a book. He's very known for this quote that every war has 2 losers. So, thank you so much, Kevin, for having us. So, Evelyn, to our next. I have a few other introductions. I'd like to introduce Uli Spalthoff and his wife, Bridget. Where's Uli? Oh, there you are. He's the cameraman now. You'll see that power shifts from one person to the other. Uli is our Director of Project Development and Systems Administration. He has been doing incredible technological works with not only the Human Dignity Group, but our latest project, which is the World Dignity University. So we're very happy to have him all the way from Germany, and his wife, Bridget, who is an incredible artist. Please talk to her about her creativity, because she believes, and I share this belief, that we can change the world through beauty. And creativity is an important part of our work as Human Dignity Humiliations. So please welcome them with a round of applause. Then let me introduce our business manager for the Human Dignity Humiliation Studies Network. Rick, would you stand up? Rick Slavin is a former school superintendent, and he was the administrator for the physics department at Brandeis University. He's a former nuclear engineer, and now we're using him for a much better purpose. But he is our walking, talking miracle, because in December he had a major stroke. So he's here. This is his maiden voyage out into the world again. And as you can see, he's in pretty good shape, but he says some funny things once in a while, don't you, Annie? Do you want to say something funny now?
Something funny now.
Thank you.
My wife saved my life.
We have been connected. He's been really, he's a real important part, so we're really glad you made it here and that we could be here with everyone. So give him a round of applause. Just for those of you who are fairly new to the Human Dignity Study Network, let me tell you a few things. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Linda Hartling. I'm the director of the Human Dignity Humiliation Studies Network. We are an extreme, you'll see, we don't use paper very much. We are an extreme, lean, green organization, but we aren't mean. We're really dedicated to collaboration and creating positive connections. And you need to know that we are not into big ego leadership, and we say that director primarily means that I'm willing to work directly with whatever needs to be done. Especially I work in direct service to Evelyn Lindner, who does the work of 15 people. So it's just like working for 15 people. But just so you know about my background, I developed the the first scale to assess the internal experience of humiliation, the fear of humiliation, back in 1996. And then I went on to be the director or associate director of the Jean Baker Miller Training Institute, which is at Wellesley College at Wellesley, Massachusetts, under the umbrella of the Wellesley Centers for Women, which is the largest women's research institution in the United States. And that's also known as the home of what's called relational cultural theory, which puts the emphasis on we all grow in and through relationships. So that's one of the cornerstones of our work. And most recently, I moved back to the west coast of the United States, where I'm working in Portland, Oregon, which is known as the most sustainable city in the United States, because there's a real emphasis on living in harmony in the environment and looking at issues of sustainability. So I'm really happy to be here, and we're really happy to have you with our group. And then you need to know there's over, we have about 1,000 active members for the Human Dignity Group, more than 3,000 supporters for this group. Our global advisory board is made over 273 distinguished scholars from around the world. Our website, Uli has told us, is the #1 website in the world for research on humiliation out of about 2.5 million other possibilities. We have 2 meetings a year, one in New York City, which is called the Workshop on Transforming Humiliation and Violent Conflict, and one in a different location every year, because we feel it's so important to learn from people all across the world and bring them into the conversation. So we've been in Paris, we've been in Costa Rica, we've been in Berlin, we've been in Istanbul last year, in Hawaii and China, and now we're here in beautiful New Zealand. So we're very happy to be here. So, you see, I have to say, I absolutely loved the theme of this particular conference, Enlarging the Boundaries and Connection. If you go to my next slide, Evelyn, it reminded me of this poem from an early American poet in Oregon, Edwin Markham. And so I thought I'd just read this poem quickly. It goes, it's called Outwitted. He drew a circle and shut me out. Heretic, rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle and took him in. Which reminds me that we are all dedicated to enlarging those boundaries of compassion. And together we're going to begin a dialogue on that challenge in a way that I think will extend what we know and what we can do in the future. So now, it is my great pleasure to introduce our fearless leader, and let me do your full introduction, okay, Evelyn?
Okay.
And then you'll talk about the program.
Okay.
Okay? All right. Evelyn Linder is the founding president of Human Dignity Humiliation Studies. She is a transdisciplinary social scientist who holds degrees in psychology and medicine. Evelyn published her 3rd book, Gender, Humiliation, and Global Security, which has been identified by Choice Magazine as a powerful follow-up to her Making Enemies. It will be indispensable to psychologists, humanists, and political scientists, and invaluable to policymakers around the world. It's highly recommended. She has 2 other books, Emotion and Conflict and Making Enemies. She lives her life as a global citizen, so she travels around the world, and she is largely the reason why we are coming together. But I know right before a conference, it can be kind of challenging, huh, Evelyn? So I got this cartoon I thought sort of captures your feelings maybe just before the conference. We never know how things are going to happen. You go to the next slide. So, but I want to say that on our website, you'll see what she says in person. She says, I have dedicated my life to engaging the peoples and communities of the world to end violence and cycles of humiliation, of people putting each other down. To protect our planet for the future generations, we need to hold hands in equal dignity. and lead each other toward a peaceful, sustainable, and richly diverse global community. Evelyn sees the whole world as her home and all of you as part of her family. So please welcome Evelyn Miller. Evelyn! Now you'll talk about our program.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm sorry that I was not a very welcome committee this morning because we were working here. Let me tell you now that I'm extremely, extremely happy that you are all here. Let me put the glasses for looking, looking far. Now I can see you. That I'm so happy to see you all, and it's such an amazing moment after many emails, and then suddenly there are faces there. Tony, you were with us in New York. Uli and Brigitte, Uli was with us in New York. So some people are, reappearing. It's wonderful to see you again. So just saying to you that this is why for what I live. The reason for why I'm on this planet and feel that I have a meaningful life is because you are here now. So I'm deeply touched that you are here. So I try always to step out of speaking about something, and I try to be it more. So just now I am deeply with you and deeply happy that you are here. So our program, we start with who is next now? You have changed.
We'll have to do the
Please.
appreciative inquiry.
Yes, you are now.
I have to wait, but you have to say the overview of the entire 2 days.
Yeah. So since you have changed just the next step, I'm
Okay.
a bit out of expertise.
Where are you?
The appreciative inquiry comes next, and then T, and then Carmen and Michelle.
Okay.
Perfect,
Good.
yes.
And then we have to find a place to go and have lunch.
Yes.
We haven't discussed that yet, and we might find out later
Yes.
what we do for that.
And
And
after
then after lunch we will start the open space. You will do that?
You will do your presentation.
Yeah, we can change. We can look at it. I can make a short presentation. I have planned only a very, very short, like 10 minutes today, just explaining who we are, what the network is. I have a bit longer presentation, which we can elect or de-elect as a part of the open space sessions. So I will not talk much today, I guess. So open space will be opened by Linda. She is explaining to us what open space means. Basically, open space starts from the experience that many people have who go to conferences. They come out of the conference and then they say, oh, I must admit I fell asleep when people were reading their papers. And the only really good time was the coffee break. And so many people thought, why don't we then take the coffee break and make it into the conference? Okay, so this is the idea behind open space sessions, that we say, okay, everybody who is there, like around the coffee break, is important, and it's the right time for us to be here, and we make the program now together. So today we make the program for tomorrow, and for the rest of the day. So this is what we do together today, so that we know today what we do tomorrow. And then we have a very innovative thing on our day 3 on Wednesday, which resembles our Oslo conference. You remember?
Yes.
2008 we had our conference in Oslo. We started in Oslo in the Holocaust Center, then we took the train, the whole conference to Bergen, then we had a meeting in Bergen, then we took the boat to Trondheim. One night we had conference room on the boat, on the ship, and then we ended our conference in Trondheim, and from there everybody took the plane home. So
Everybody
we had
collapsed.
everybody collapsed. Yes, that's right. So we had a moving conference, and so day 3 on Wednesday we have a moving conference. And Brian, you want to explain that briefly now, or should I try to explain it? Because Brian is the author of this wonderful day 3.
Yay.
And he has already thought through. We need now to decide, because he wants to get a minibus, so we would need to know how many people will be with us. So we will start. We will go to the Marae, and then we go on the Monarch, and then we come back. How many? The question is how many people want to do that. I know Kevin, you know it already, so you won't be with us.
We have a little sign-up sheet, so we'll just make a sign-up sheet to see how many people can feel they'd like to join us. How about that? And we'll pass that around.
Is that okay? And
Yeah.
Brian is the one who has thought up this wonderful plan. And Uli and Brigitte, they are also aware of everything, so they can be advisors on that plan too. Yes?
Just quickly, we plan, if everybody apart from Kevin is thinking of coming, we know we're about 15 or so. So we'll pick up a bus would take us to the Marae, and in the morning we bring our own lunch, and we will spend the morning there, and then lunch, and then carry on the conference till about 2:30, at which time we'll walk down to the jetty and hop on the Monarch boat, go up to the wildlife, and then back into town to the wharf in town here.
With the ship.
So if everybody's happy with doing that, just sign up with me. There is a cost. It's around $90. But if you have difficulty that, just come and talk to me. So I'm assuming pretty much all of us are going at this point.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you so much for thinking that up and arranging everything. It took a long time. So on Thursday we will have our what we call public event. As you know, this here is a more non-public event, and we always in our conferences we think that we should have one event where everybody who is locally there in Istanbul, we had about 100 people coming, who wants to know who we are and perhaps sometimes also share. We had in Istanbul we had 2 parts. It's always very different. It depends on the place. It depends on what you wanted to do with this event. So on Thursday evening at 5 o'clock we are here again, and then we hope to have many people who will come, and then we have a more structured 2 talks. You have one, I have one, you have one, introduction. And so this is on Thursday 5 o'clock, 2 hours. So thank you again. Have I forgotten anything?
No.
Well, there are toilets, and if anybody needs a toilet, it's just on the other side of the building there. So
And I saw-
just go down and turn left.
Yeah, left. Mhm.
Maybe we need our online participants.
Oh yes, thank you. Yes, whoever is now online with us, I know that Michael was there, Lasse is there, Lasse in the middle of the night in Oslo. We are extremely happy to have you, and I know that many people will see the recording. You see the red dot there, up in the corner. We are recording this so that people who are interested to watch what we did later can watch the recording of this. And Brian, I would need to ask you to try to give us the piece with you, because the sound was off then. So we need to feed that, what you did, on that in some way. You remember I switched the sound on, I recognized it, and I switched the sound on, and so when in the middle of Kevin, I think, the sound went on, or in the beginning of Kevin. So this is a big, it was, my heart broke when I noticed that, because your introduction, your opening was so deeply touching, and your song was so beautiful. So I'm so glad that it's on that camera and that we can feed it in. We have to feed it in later.
Right, are we ready? How much time do I have before we...
Until 10:30.
10:30. So we're really eager to have you introduce yourselves. That's our next step. But before we do that, we want to introduce you to our particular approach to beginning a dialogue on humiliation. So Evelyn, if you can find my other slides.
Oh, download it. Okay. Continue
Okay.
speaking.
So we use this unique methodology, and it's called the appreciative frame. And it grew out of two main sources. One, a group of researchers at Case Western Reserve University in Cleveland, Ohio. And they initiated this whole idea of appreciative inquiry that we've incorporated and made it to our own by just having dialogues all along the way. So this is a version of that particular research methodology and approach. And the reason why we use it is because we believe it helps make our work more efficient, it's highly practical, we can focus on having conversations instead of going into sort of the academic debate type of mentality. But I'm going to use my PowerPoint here, and sometimes PowerPoint can be powerful and sometimes it can be pointless. But this particular PowerPoint is just designed to try to introduce this topic, appreciative approach, as a really practical way for beginning a dialogue on the very difficult topic of humiliation. Now, I want to introduce to you Don Klein. He was one of our founding members. Don actually started this work with us at age 80. So that tells you that and stayed with us for about 4 years. But Don Klein wrote some of the earliest papers on the experience of humiliation in the Journal of Primary Prevention. And he proposed that appreciation can be a powerful antidote to humiliation. But he wanted us to all understand that appreciation shouldn't be confused with mindless happy talk and just getting along, or reframing ideas where you put a positive spin on something, or even just positive thinking, or being nice, even though we aren't against anybody being nice. You can be as nice as you want, but that's not what appreciative practice is about. It's really about creating the conditions where everyone can bring their best ideas into the room. So, Evelyn, could you go to the next slide? So let me start with just saying, what is humiliation? I'm going to give you Don Klein's definition. One of our members once told us that humiliation is really quite hard to define. It's a little bit like trying to define a platypus. You know, you can describe a platypus, but it's really difficult, but you always know what it is when you see one. Well, the humiliation is a bit like this, but here's a quick definition. It's the experience that one feels when one is ridiculed, scorned, put down, or held in contempt, or otherwise disparaged for who one is rather than what one does. And it typically comes in three forms. It can be the experience of feeling humiliated inside. It can be the external experience of being degraded, having degraded treatment, or it can be conditions, systemic injustice, for example, that lead one to feel devalued or marginalized. Slide, Evelyn. So, Evelyn's work, her field work around the world, has taught us that humiliation is one of the strongest forces that can disrupt relationships. And in fact, she has called it the nuclear bomb of emotions. It's that powerful. And I think all of you probably know this, is that it can come in the form of interpersonal experiences, from ridicule, teasing, brutality, to social experience of racism, sexism, ageism, and to international conflict. So we're talking about a huge topic. And Dawn suggested that, you know, traditional psychology tends to come from the perspective of the glass is half empty, focusing on the problem, working on the problem. He suggested it might be more useful as if we focused on the glass half full. And understand appreciative practice is from that perspective of focusing on the glass half full and finding out how did that glass get to be half filled, and how can we continue to refill that glass over and over. So that's kind of the concept behind appreciative inquiry, focusing on the positive and building on those qualities by bringing a sense of openness and curiosity into the work. And Dawn had this very quick way to get to a sense of appreciation which is a sense of awe and wonderment and curiosity, he said that we all have the capacity to feel appreciation just by thinking about experiences that leave us with awe and wonderment. Next slide, Emily. When we are in a place where we see a beautiful sunset, or for some of us it's listening to music, and for some of us it's watching a child play, we have this sense of openness and curiosity that's really important for us to bring into the room as we do this work. It's engaging in a way that really upholds and supports the other person. So we invite all of you to bring that sense of awe and wonderment with you as we begin this dialogue. So, be prepared to be surprised. And we have 5 surprising ideas that are part of our work. First, we believe relationships come first. This is rather surprisingly a radical notion, that we all grow best when we grow together, when we work together to support each other as we move forward. That's unusual. Usually organizations put the work first, and then the relationship comes as an afterthought. We are committed to putting relationships first. Now, we realized early on in our study of humiliation that humiliation is a relational experience. You know, typically psychology has used the unit of study as the individual and understanding individual experience. We are focused on the relational experience, so we see all people as relational beings. And humiliation can disrupt our ability to engage in relationships, not only in the moment, but throughout people's lives. We use appreciation as one way to rebuild our sense of connection. So, this is some of the work that we have tried to apply in our work with building relationships. This comes from Aaron Gandhi, who was talking about his father's work. Aaron is part of our Global Advisory Board. And he said, these are the 4 important principles of building relationships. Go ahead, Aaron. 1, begin by practicing respect. As Kevin explained earlier, radical respect. And respect leads to understanding. And understanding leads to acceptance. And acceptance leads to appreciation. So we invite all of you to come from that sense of awe and wonderment and start building that sense of appreciation for many different perspectives. And Evelyn is one of our major role models of building bridges throughout the world, across the world, so we can dignify and gather in dialogue across many differences. So, relationships come first. Number 2, none of us is as smart as all of us, as the Japanese proverb tells us. We depend on all of you, and each of you we know has something important to contribute to this conversation. So we invite you to engage in dignifying dialogues where we can contribute in very different ways. And that's where we go to fluid expertise. Each of you has a special form of expertise that you are contributing to this work. Number 3, it's not just the work we do together, but how we work together, how we walk the talk of this work. I think many of us have been to conferences where we feel like there's a great gap between how people talk about the work and how they actually live the work in their daily lives. We're trying to walk the talk in every aspect of this work by applying the sense of appreciative being and paying attention to our relationships. And I wanted to emphasize one of my relational role models for collaborative work is, next slide, Emily, is Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norbu, because for many years it wasn't just that they achieved this incredible goal, but they always talked about that it was done together. They worked together to achieve that goal. I see that as walking the talk of the collaborative work. Next slide. Number 4, we keep in mind that we are all human beings among human beings. Des